Good afternoon. It is Sunday, June 7th, 2020, coming to you live from the Lonely Tree Media Studios in beautiful Murder Hornet free Ellensburg, Washington. This is the Best Lamb Sports Show. I'm your host, David Lamb, and with me, as always, is my son, Parker.
Good afternoon, everybody.
We are live streaming on YouTube every weekend. We're on Twitter at Lamb Sports. We're also on Facebook, and you can email us, lambsports@gmail.com. The first part of our show, as always, is brought to you by The Range in Yakima. The Range is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting facility at 34,000 square feet. The Range is an all-inclusive. I'm sorry, hang on one second. Technical difficulties. Let me start over. The Range is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting facility at 34,000 square feet. The Range is an all-inclusive facility offering firearm training, retail firearm sales and supplies, full gunsmithing and repairs, custom builds, and Cerakote services, all under one roof. Open Tuesday through Sunday from 11 to 7. Go see our friends at The Range, 1701 Garrettson Lane in Yakima. The phone number is 509-571-1449. The Range, educate, empower, and equip. Sorry about that. We, got not off to a flying start, but, we're off. So,
It happens.
we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. And it's interesting stuff, is it not?
Yeah, most of it's pretty interesting.
Most of it's pretty interesting. So the
I'm
NBA...
I'm totally underselling it. Yes, it's very interesting.
I mean, as far as sports talk shows go. So the NBA is returning, not the whole league, but we'll give you the details and what we know so far. The MLB is not returning yet, still arguing about money. Drew Brees, his comment, backlash, subsequent apology, the NFL's new direction and statement on racial discrimination and injustice. We're going to talk about the Bundesliga and Korean baseball as usual. And then we have our 2000s NFL championship. It is conference championship weekend, and we have two fantastic matchups to talk about. So let's get moving. Parker, which one of those are you most excited to talk about?
I am very excited to talk about the NBA coming back.
All right.
Very excited. I'm so jacked about this.
That is coming up shortly. Right now, we're going to do the trivia question that we started a couple weeks ago. Trivia question is brought to you by Stave and Stone Winery. Stave and Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. The winery at Broken Boulder Vineyard is open 12 to 6 Wednesday through Monday. Head out there and join them for a relaxing glass on the patio with stunning views of Mount Adams. The downtown tasting room will reopen this Thursday and be open Thursday through Sunday from 12 to 6. The Vineyard tasting room is at 3827 Fletcher Drive. The downtown address is 210 Oak Street. To find out more or order wine, go to stavenstone.com. Call 541-946-3750. That's 541-WINE-750. Or email them, info@stavenstone.com. Stave and Stone, wines with personality. So, the trivia question this week is difficult. Just FYI, in case, last week's was easy, and I don't think it was. But this one's difficult.
It was not.
You ready? You ready for this one?
I'm excited to hear it.
Okay. Every year since 1955-56, the NBA has handed out a trophy to the league's most valuable player. Last year's winner, Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
The question this week, what is the name of the NBA's MVP trophy?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I had never thought of that until I read it, and it blew my mind. I was like, "What? It has a name?" Yeah, it has a name. All right.
Huh.
So let's everybody just ruminate on that for the next 50 minutes, and we'll talk about it. We'll give you the answer at the end. If you know the answer, feel free to tweet on Twitter @LambSports. Tweet us the answer. There will be a follow-up question. So.
Ooh.
So let's move along to news and notes, scores and standings for the week. Let's talk about the Bundesliga first, because it is the league that has most established itself, I guess, other than Korean baseball. But anyway, FC Bayern Munich beat Bayer Leverkusen 4-2 on Saturday to maintain their 7-point lead in the German Bundesliga standings. Borussia Dortmund kept pace with a 1-0 win against Hertha Berlin. Bayern plays third-place Borussia Mönchengladbach this next Saturday, but they'll be without the league's top scorer, Robert Lewandowski, and the league's leader in assists, Thomas Müller. Both of those players picked up their 5th yellow card of the season, and they have to sit out a one game, which is the next game. The matches can be seen on Fox Sports 1 and 2. Korean baseball. The NC Dinos lead is now 4 games over the Doosan Bears in the KBO. Both teams went 5-1 this week, while the LG Twins went 2-4 and fell into third. 5 games back. NC and Doosan start a 3-game series on Tuesday. Those games are on ESPN real early in the morning. And by early, I mean they start at like 4 a.m.
As if I like getting up to watch baseball at 1. Do I like getting up to watch baseball at 3 a.m.?
as if baseball wasn't a little bit boring to watch on TV at 3 in the morning. I'm not 100% certain it will keep you awake. But NASCAR is in Atlanta this week, Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500 on Fox. And your current race leader is, as it's refreshing right now, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr. in second, and one of the Bushes is in third. There's too many of those Bushes. They're all over the place. Um, PGA Tour is starting this coming week at the Charles Schwab. Let me get the name right. The Charles Schwab Challenge at the Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth, Texas. Starts on Thursday, June 11th. That's the opening round. Goes through Sunday. You can watch that on CBS and on the Golf Channel. Um, there are actually going to be fans out there in Texas because they allow it. That should be interesting. That's going to be like the first sporting event that I've seen since this started that'll have fans at it. So, kind of interested to see how that plays out. The Formula One has announced the first 8 dates of its rescheduled calendar as the sport aims to return to racing on July 5th with the Austrian Grand Prix, at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Austria. MLS news. So, MLS, an unidentified FC Dallas player, tested positive for the coronavirus, according to a team spokesman on Wednesday. That has stopped the team's workouts for now. There is no timetable for an MLS return, and I'm not 100% certain we're going to get MLS back this year, which is a real shame because soccer's big, especially in Portland.
Yeah, it's really popular in Portland. They'll be upset about that around there, but
Yeah.
that means they'd have to tear themselves away from everything else that's going on.
It's true. You'd have. That's a tough decision. Do I go protest or do I go to the soccer game? Which,
But for them, that might be one and the same. Go to the soccer game and protest.
yeah, I mean, that's going to be the signs are going to hold up in the stands anyway if they start playing.
They always held some sort of politically charged signs up in the stands there.
It is always exciting if you get a chance to go to a Portland Timber soccer game over there at Geldwin Field. That is a fantastic event.
It's Providence Park now.
Whatever it is. You know what? Civic Stadium.
It's no longer either of those things.
It's all of
Geldwin,
that.
Not Civic.
It's
just
all of it is all of that and more. The English Premier League starts not this coming week, but the next week. 2 games on the 17th of June. 2 matches: Aston Villa versus Sheffield United and Manchester City versus Arsenal, and then a full weekend slate of matches will follow. And that's all of our news and notes at this point. That's going to bring us to the 2000s NFL Championship that we started, 3 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago?
Right.
Yeah. We are
sure 2 weeks ago? I can't remember.
So we had the wild card weekend and the divisional round. So this is 2 weeks ago. And
2 weeks
then
ago.
yeah. So now we're at the championship games. The conference championship games are today. And for those who aren't familiar with what we've done, we picked some playoff teams, basically great teams from the 2000s decade, from 2000 to 2009, and we've matched them up in a NFL playoff scenario. And what we've come down to is our final 4. The AFC Championship game we're going to talk about right now. The 2006 Indianapolis Colts are playing at the 2007 New England Patriots in Foxborough.
What a game.
I am going to let you take the AFC first. I'm going to take the NFC as the first. So, Parker, who wins this game and why?
As much as it kills me to give anything to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, I'm giving them this game. And it comes down to the fact that I do believe that they're going to score. The Colts are going to score a little bit. But I think that the defense of the Pats, they were 4th in the league that year, letting only 17.1 up. I think that they're going to stop them because the Colts always played tight games, and I don't think that they're not good enough defensively to stop the Pats from scoring, but I also am not 100% sure that they're good enough offensively to score consistently to keep up. So I'm going to give the edge to the Pats. I'm going to say it's all because of the Pats defense, and that's my piece.
Wow, I went a slightly different direction in that I did not pick New England. So Indy, in my opinion, is the more explosive team. Yes, New England is a very controlled, methodical team, move down the field, but their explosive plays are not what Indianapolis can do to you, thanks to Reggie Wayne and Peyton Manning, and just they have that ability to pop off a big play at any point in time. I feel like that Manning is one of the few quarterbacks that can out-quarterback Tom Brady. and there are not many. Um, Between 2006 and 2007, the Colts won 2 out of 3 against the Patriots. To include the
Yeah.
AFC Championship game in 2006. So history a little bit on their side in that I feel like Peyton would find a way. It would be a close game. Um, the defense for Indianapolis would get just enough pressure on Tom Brady to make him either throw the ball away or make a mistake. Um,
Yeah.
and that there's a fourth quarter comeback in there, and the Colts would come back and win. And I kind of picked a 31-27 score as a guesstimate. So
Okay. Here's our
now
first coin flip.
so the coin flip brought to you by Google. Um, is we used it last week, right? Didn't we do it last week?
We used it last week, and there was still some debate.
There's not that I'm bitter
It's not a foolproof method.
about losing. So since I'm picking Indianapolis and they're the visiting team, I get to call the coin flip.
You get to call the coin.
That's the fair way to do it. So I'm going to call
You're
it.
also flipping the coin, so you could see what
I
it is.
totally could be. This could all be rigged. You're absolutely right. And it could be
I
100%.
trust you.
Well, thank you. All right, so we're gonna flip the coin. I'm gonna do it now, and then I'm gonna call it in the air. So here we go. I'm calling tails, and it's heads.
Yes.
So
Parker's 2 for 2 on the coin.
Yeah, let's make that a stat here. Coin flip, 2 for 2. I'm gonna write that down. So anyway, so as much as that pains me even more to say is that New England will move to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I know. I don't like that either.
and I, being a Dolphin fan, am not happy, and that just ruined my Sunday. But that's okay. We can move on. We're gonna
You can go the SEC route and just cheer for the division like crazy.
No, we can't do that. That's no.
I've been saying the same thing to SEC fans for years. Like how is Tennessee celebrating Alabama's title?
Right.
I don't quite get it.
And they always say we won.
We won. Oh.
No,
we were the best conference. Like no, they were in the best conference. You were all right.
Right. I would hazard a guess that the AFC East is the best division ever. We won how many Super Bowls? But let's not. All right, we got to move on. So NFC Championship game is next. Right now we have the 2009 New Orleans Saints at the 2001 St. Louis Rams, coming to you from the Edward Jones Dome in St. Louis. I get to go first because this is how it works. And what I decided was that the Saints' defensive secondary is too good. I know the Rams are explosive. I said that about Indianapolis just a minute ago. But I'm going to tell you that the Saints' defensive secondary is a shutdown type defensive. They're going to make enough plays. And Kurt Warner has a tendency to throw a lot of interceptions. He threw a lot of touchdown passes, but he threw a lot of interceptions. Why? Because he threw a lot of passes. But I feel like they're gonna force an interception or two from Warner. They're gonna make the plays when they need to make the plays. The Saints, people are gonna forget the Saints averaged 35 points per game while going 13-0 to start that year in 2009. So they're not. It's not like they can't score. Reggie Bush, he's going to be the wild card in this scenario. He's an explosive player. He's a guy who can take a screen pass and make a big play. He's a guy, if you open up a big enough hole, he makes a play. You get him out into open space with the football, and you might as well forget about it. I feel like in the fourth quarter, New Orleans is going to slightly pull away, and they're going to win this one in a higher scoring game, 41-30. That's my guess.
Well, I got to tell you, if recent history has been any indication, the Saints in the fourth quarter are going to wilt. So, or overtime for that matter. Or, the refs will just make sure it happens one way or another. But I have the Rams. I believe that they are too powerful. You think that the Saints defense is going to keep their explosiveness in check? I think that there's no way in heck that happens. I think that they don't have enough pieces in one position. Like if they have like 3 cornerbacks who are super talented, the Saints, if they had like 3 cornerbacks, then they'd be able to shut down, their big wide receiving core. Or if they had, a whole bunch of linebackers who could serve as cornerbacks, but they really have like a couple big pieces, one on the line, one on the defensive backs, one here, one there. Like they're kind of spread out. I mean, yeah, they got a good safety and a good cornerback, but I just think that there's too much firepower there. And also, the Rams' defense, statistically speaking, was better at the end of the year. They let up less points than the Saints, so I'm going to assume that they're going to continue to play that way. I think that the Rams take this. I do think it's close, but I think the Rams win this game. Flip the
So
coin.
so we're gonna flip another coin. I don't
Flip
like
the
this.
coin.
I feel like I'm gonna lose this again thanks to electronics. I feel like that's what's
It
happening
has
here.
nothing to do with that. It's pure luck.
I feel like Google's stacked against me. So we're gonna flip the coin again. All right, then fine. Here we go. But I get to call it again because the Saints are the visiting team.
Right. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
so we're gonna do it again one more time. So now that I've lost two, I'm hoping it's not three. We don't want to trend. All right, here we go. I'm calling heads, and it's tails.
Let's go.
That's three. That's three in a
An
row.
all Parker Super Bowl.
I don't want to talk about either of those teams. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's all right, I guess. We do what we do, and it'll be fine, right? Dang it! So Super Bowl matchup
One of
set.
these days, it's going to turn on me too, and I'm not going to win any for a while. So.
You know what we did not discuss, and I just want to put this out there. We did not discuss where the Super Bowl would be held. That may determine who wins this game.
Oh, do we have to? Do we want to? So, what are the years? The years are 01 and 07.
And '07. So
We just want to split down the middle and say it was in 04.
well, where would they hold it? So Miami, New Orleans, um, California. You know, it could be in the Coliseum or Stanford Stadium or um, right now it'd be well
Well,
if
the
it was
2004 Super Bowl was in Houston.
Houston.
It was in Houston, but
Okay.
if you want to go 2003, because technically splitting it doesn't work that way. The one the year before was in. Trying to look it up. What the
Yeah, I don't know
information
the
is
best way to do that.
Qualcomm.
Qualcomm. So San
So
Diego.
we can also just say it's going to be a neutral site, no fans. On an island somewhere.
Okay. I mean, there would be no fans if it was now. So yeah.
That's true. Oh, but I think the bigger question is who's performing at the halftime show. In 03, it was the Dixie Chicks,
ah.
and in 04, it was Beyonce did the anthem. That's pretty cool.
We'll come up with
But
that.
we'll come up with the halftime show.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I'll piece that
the
together.
04 one is a huge list. It's Justin Timberlake, Nelly, P Diddy, Kid Rock, Jessica Simpson, Janet
Right.
Jackson,
All right.
everybody.
So I think those are important things to consider. I mean, who sings the national anthem? That could sway one team, get one team more motivated than the other, or will they all just be taking a knee? We don't know. And then
Beyonce was going to shut off the power, so that's a big deal.
right, and then the halftime show could be psych up one team more than the other, although they're usually in the locker room and they aren't watching it. But hey, you never know. So next week we'll do the Super Bowl. New England, St. Louis, coming to you from wherever they're playing in a 72-degree, completely controlled environment indoors somewhere where there are no fans. But we will have a halftime show and a national anthem. So
Wildly neutral in every way.
wildly neutral in every way. That's correct.
Yeah.
I feel like Minnesota. I feel like they should have this in Minnesota.
I feel like Minnesota's a good place to have that new stadium's beautiful.
It's indoor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what we'll determine. Anyway, we'll talk about it next week. But anyway, that brings us to the thing I think you wanted to talk about the most,
The NBA.
which is the NBA. The NBA is
Bring it
coming back. The NBA is coming back on June 4th. The NBA's Board of Governors approved a competitive format to restart the 2019-2020 season, with 22 teams returning to play and a tentative start date of July 31st. The format is as follows, if you can bear with me. The 7 teams in each conference with the best records, right? Regular season.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to bring these teams back. They're going to play 8 seeding games. Everyone's
Sure.
going to play 8 games against these other teams that are being brought back. So if
Right.
if your schedule included the teams that aren't being brought back, i.e., Golden State, Minnesota, Detroit Pistons, people like that, you don't get to play those gimme games. You're going to have to play against teams that are literally competing for a playoff spot or have already clinched one.
Got to play some tough people. But then you have guys like the Bucks who you don't even have to start anybody. You can lose all 8 games. You might lose your first place seeding, but you're not going to drop lower than second.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's
Like
all
you don't have to start anybody.
and that's all you're playing for is the seeding right now. So
Yeah.
anyway, so what they're going to do is the 7 teams in each conference with the best records, regular season games plus the 8 seeding games, will clinch a playoff spot. So the usual tiebreaker scenarios will be in place for those seeds. The 8th seed could potentially come down to a play-in tournament if the team with the 8th best record in its conference is more than 4 games ahead of the team with the 9th best record in the same conference. then there's no play-in tournament necessary, and that playoff berth goes to the team in the 8th spot. However, if the team with the 8th best record in its conference is 4 games or fewer ahead of the team with the 9th best record in the conference, then they have to battle for the final spot between those two teams, and it's basically a best of 2 series. And what they mean by that is the team that's in 9th spot would have to win 2 games against the team that's in the 8th spot. The team that's in the 8th spot would only have to win 1 game.
Yeah.
So it's basically sudden death for that 9th place team, and they got to beat that team twice to prove they deserve to be there. So you could be 4 games back at the end of the seeding games, and all you have to do is beat the team ahead of you twice, which in effect would only bring you up 2 games, and you still get that playoff spot.
What if you have 4 teams who are all 4 games or under back from the 8th place?
I thought that very same question, and I looked it up to find out what they were going to do, and it is winning percentage. Since not all of the teams have played the same amount of games to this point. The team with the highest winning percentage would win. Now, if it's a tie on winning percentage, I don't know. They haven't addressed that yet. So, if you had a 4-way tie for 8th, how would they figure that out? I don't know. That's a great question that needs more research, because I think they think that it's going to come down to 2 teams. But
right now, it's looking like Memphis and Portland in the West.
Well, but if you look at the West, let's talk about that for just a minute, because this is one of those things. If you look at the West, 8th seed is the Memphis Grizzlies. 9th seed is Portland. They are 3.5 back of Memphis. So all Portland has to do right now is maintain that distance and not let anybody jump in front of them.
Which is tough because they're tied games backwise with the Pelicans.
They are tied games backwise with the Pelicans and the Kings.
But they're ahead of both of those teams in percentage.
By .001. Because they played more games.
To quote Vin Diesel, it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning is winning. So,
and we all know,
in this case, winning gets you into a playing game.
And we all know we should listen to Vin Diesel.
On all things.
On all things. I agree. So I have a lot of questions, and I have a lot of problems with it. And that was one of them, is that what happens if there's a gazillion teams tied? What happens if... So, in effect, Memphis is at 8, and then there's 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 in the West. Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, and Phoenix all coming back to play. What if they all end up tied?
Yeah.
What a disaster will that be? Because there's no way they've figured out that scenario.
I think the only reason they made this a thing is because of the East. Because the West, you have Orlando's in the 8th seed. Washington's 5 games back, 5.5 games back. So you don't really have the same competitive issue in the East. But because of the West, there's so many teams that are right there. But I think they're going to schedule them to make sure that a team gets where they needs to go. You know what I mean? Like not like to guarantee wins or anything like that, but like they're going to schedule them in such a way so that way if Portland wins all 8 games, that they're definitively in the 8th spot. Or if like that, like they don't want it to be like, well, if you go 400, all the teams just stay in the same spot. They want to try and make it to where you move. You're going to play some teams that are higher up that can't lose their seeding.
Right. So I think the West is going to be chaotic. Is the best way to describe that. And even Memphis, who's at 8, they're 7 games back at Dallas. There's a chance they catch Dallas. I mean, not a good chance, but I mean, it could happen.
Not a great chance.
No, it's slim, but I mean, anything could happen. They could end up being the 7 seed, and then Dallas would be fighting for their lives with Portland, New Orleans, and whoever. Portland can't move any higher than 8th. New Orleans.
I think you're looking at that 3 through 6 on the West. That's going to be tight. Like Denver, Utah, Thunder, Rockets. That's 2.5 games between the top and the bottom of that spot.
And even Denver's only 1.5 behind the Clippers.
Only 1.5 behind the Clippers. I think the Lakers are pretty much good. They need to win 2 games, maybe 3, and they'll be good.
Yep. And then
if they win 3 games, they for sure lock their spot.
The Bucks are pretty secure. And then the Raptors and the Celtics are fighting for a spot, and then the Miami Heat, the Pacers, and the Sixers are then the 3 teams over there, the 4, 5, 6. They're fighting for those spots, and then the Brooklyn Nets are the interesting one because Kevin Durant said he's not coming back to play.
How selfish.
I don't know if it's fear of coronavirus or if it's just injury and he doesn't want to get hurt, but he's not coming back to play. That really hurts the Nets, and they're only a half game ahead of Orlando in the 8th seed, so there's a chance they could be the team that's out, and that maybe Washington moves ahead of them, and it's Orlando and Washington instead of Brooklyn, and that would penalize your whole team for knocking them out of the playoffs basically by not playing. I don't know. There's a
Yeah.
lot of interesting stuff going on, and then all of this is contingent upon no one getting the coronavirus while they're down there, because that will effectively knock your team out, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it would be, well, especially if it goes to it's going to be important. You're going to have to ask a bunch of these 24, 25, 26, 27-year-old people who are millionaires to show a lot of restraint. And maybe don't have your family over. Maybe don't go out and do something, because there's nothing actually restricting you from leaving. So maybe don't do these things, and maybe keep the younger guys on your team in check if you're a leader, if you're a veteran, because you're right. If one person comes to the team with coronavirus and they get quarantined and things like that, you're going to put your whole team season in jeopardy. It's too much. Got to be disciplined. You got to get there. You got to get tested. You got to get cleared, and then just stay inside like you've been doing.
Yeah, and well, like we assume that everyone's been doing, but what I know from athletes is that there are athletes out there who don't necessarily follow the rules like you'd think they would.
I mean, Dame was just at a protest in Portland, so he was surrounded by 10,000 people.
Oh my goodness! I mean, you don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen right now. And then
Von Miller was at one, but he already tested positive and is back from it, so he's good. Like he can go wherever the heck he wants.
Right.
Hold on now. We've got 30 days till the season starts. What if we infect all the players with corona?
The NBA players?
And just let them heal up, let them get back from it, and then boom, you can't get anybody sick.
Their season's not going to start until July 31st, so we literally have 2 months.
Oh yeah, right. That's plenty of time to get sick and unsick.
And unsick, right? I mean, we could. That's and when this all started, I was saying that was the way to do this. Why don't we just all get sick and then we'll get unsick and then everybody's had it and the world is good, right?
The only problem is that if everyone got sick, it is still one of the most deadly diseases ever. If everyone got sick, there's still going to be, if there's 22 teams, 15 players on a team. If of that, however many people, if 10 of them died, that'd be terrible. If one of them died, that'd be terrible. You don't really want that. So
right, and absolutely not. I'm not suggesting we should kill anybody. I'm just saying
it was a joke.
I want to get it done and get it over with. If we're going to get it, I want to get it done.
Right.
But at this point now that I've been home since March. It's been 3 months more or less. At this point, I'm being extra careful. Because I don't want to get it now. I've been home for 3 months and I haven't got it, and I feel pretty good about it. So at this point, I just want to move along. The NBA is going to be interesting.
I'm so excited.
I'm not sure. I know, and there's a couple of things that everyone's looking at. How do you feel about a Ja Morant, Zion Williamson playoff to get in at number 8?
Are you referring to the maybe conspiracy that the league is going to make that happen?
I don't know. I mean,
apparently there's a feeling among some league people, according to an anonymous source about anonymous people, that the NBA is actively trying to ensure that Zion Williamson makes the playoffs in his first year. I mean, how else are you going to give him the Rookie of the Year?
Well, he can't be Rookie of the Year because he's not. The numbers aren't there to me.
He meets the qualifications, but if they get him into the playoffs and then he beats Ja Morant, straight up, then right. That's why I said quote straight up. Then yeah, they'll have a hard time not giving it to him at that point.
I think Ja Morant has been better over the course of the whole year and is a better player right now. Yeah, Zion Williamson's exciting and whatever, but I still think that Ja Morant deserves to be the Rookie of the Year this year, regardless of what happens from this point out. So,
I agree. But also, we still have the Zion eligibility things. Did you hear about that judge who ordered Zion Williamson to answer the eligibility questions?
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. A
federal judge said, "Dude, you need to answer these questions," and he's still playing dumb, like, stupid.
He's got a Duke education, right? At least part of one. Anyway,
he's got a quarter of a Duke education, which is
well, I mean,
which is all right.
It's better than a lot of other. Anyway,
if you ask a UNC fan, that's nothing.
Oh, right, correct. And then it all depends on how much you actually went to class. That's a whole nother thing.
If you did the Ben Simmons route, then he only went for 4 months. It means he's got 4 out of 8 months of 1 year of 4. of a Duke education.
And we're not
He's
saying
got an
that
eighth of a Duke education.
we're not saying that's how all athletic departments operate or anything, but we're saying there's precedent out there. So
I'm just saying I've gotten an eighth of a Duke education online for free. So
here's what here's one of those questions that I had about this whole NBA thing. So I'm going to give you an example, and we're going to use Portland and Memphis as the example. Portland's played 66 games to this point, 29 and 37. Memphis has played 65. They're 32 and 33. Clearly have the better record, 3.5 games better. There were 16 games left for Portland to play. 9 of those were against teams that were under 500.
Should have been a cakewalk.
To include the Charlotte Hornets, 2 against Minnesota, Cleveland, Golden State, Detroit. The Memphis Grizzlies' remaining schedule, 17 games was left on their schedule. They only had 6 against losing teams. So they had 11 games more against over 500 teams. Portland should have, in theory, caught up and been at least even had the season played out. Now what happened is you take those 9 losing record teams, basically, off of their schedule. They're going to be playing. I mean, it's not all 9. They're going to lose 6 games off of that schedule against teams. Memphis only had one game remaining of their 17 that was against a team that got left out of this scenario. Portland had 6. So
interesting.
That is big to me. That is like a scheduling nightmare. Great. So you just penalized. You got them into the playoffs, into a play-in seeding games, and that's all great. But you basically screwed their schedule so bad that it made it extremely hard for them to get where they need to get.
This whole year comes with an asterisk. If you win the title this year, it's the quarantine title. It doesn't mean as much.
It's a different type of
especially could you imagine? Oh my goodness, could you imagine the Bucks Lakers make it to the title game? Game 1 plays whoever wins. It doesn't matter. Let's say the Lakers win it.
Yep.
Game 2, Giannis has corona.
Yeah.
And gets sick. And the Lakers sweep the Bucks. There's so much of an asterisk. It's like, great, we shouldn't have even played this, but you won a title based on, nothing.
At any point in time during this thing, that could happen. That's the point I guess I was making.
You can ravage your team, too. And if it gets one person, then it's probably going to take on 2 or 3 because, it's like 7 days to start manifesting symptoms. And in that time, you can transmit pretty easily. So
it's going to be a mess. I don't know how they're going to work it. We talked about it last week.
I'm happy to see competitive basketball, though.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going into this thinking, all right, here's the season, we're back to normal, blah blah blah. Right. I'm going into it saying, man, I'm just happy to watch some basketball.
To watch some people play.
Hopefully I get some good games. Hopefully people go into this knowing that, okay, there's 8 games with potential play-in scenarios. Let's have the playoff mentality now. Let's get into it right now. And the Blazers get Nurk and Collins back.
They have a good opportunity. They have a good opportunity. I think they had a good opportunity before because they were going to get them back right.
It was a week later.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
man.
I feel like they had a better opportunity before than they do now, is what I feel like. Because everyone's rested now. Everybody who had an injury is pretty much going to come back. So it's going to be interesting.
But before it was like, okay, Collins is going to be back next week, but he's got that kind of like, we don't want to rush him into it. We want him to be healthy, blah, blah, blah. But now it's like, dude, you've had 3 months of rest since you were supposed to come back.
Yeah, you're coming back.
You should be good to roll.
You're playing.
You're playing. You're gonna get normal Zach minutes.
So long story short, this isn't gonna, like we said, this isn't gonna even start till July 31st. So you're gonna start seeing those seeding games in August, and then you're gonna start the playoffs. I would guess to have all these teams play 8 games is gonna take at least 2 to 3 weeks.
They said that they were going to do like 7 games a day.
It's still going to take at least 2 weeks, I would say.
Well, what? So 22 teams in 8 games? What's that number? Hit me with it. You're good with the math.
176 games.
So you have 176 games?
I don't think that's right. I think
you think that number's off?
Yeah, that number's off because each game counts as 2, so it'd be half of that.
It's 176.
80. Yeah, but it'd be 83 games. 88 games that you have to play because each game counts as one.
Oh
for you
yeah,
and
because they play each other.
Right. So
yeah,
88
and at 7 games a day, it would take 12 and a half days to do it.
Yeah. So
if you did them back to back
to
back.
I think it's going to take at least 2 weeks to play all this. So yeah. So you're talking about the middle of August, and then you got your playoffs starting, and they're going to start like normal. So you're gonna, or you might have the play-in. You might have a play-in in both conferences. That's an extra 2 games. That's an extra couple days, right? Before you can start doing playoffs. So yeah, it's going to take. I feel like it's going to be 3 weeks. It'll be like August 20th or August whatever when they start playing playoff games. Great. And now we can start playing playoff games. We play them just like we did before. It takes how long to play all of those playoff series? Assuming they all go 7, it takes quite a while. I
Yeah.
assume they're going to speed it up and play more games in less time than they normally do, but I can't get because there's no travel day. If
Being
we're
fair, I don't care how long it takes.
if there's no travel day, we're all playing. You know what I mean? You don't have to have a day off for travel, but you can't play 7 games in 7 days. I don't think they're going to do that.
As an equipment manager by trade, I'm really excited to see how they navigate having all of the uniforms, all of the shoes, all of their practice equipment all in one place for every team.
Yeah, it's
That'd be
well,
really cool.
Disney World's a big place. So if anybody can do it, I feel like their wide world of sports complex is probably capable of doing it.
Yeah.
That size of undertaking. And anyway, so all this is to say that the 2020-21 NBA regular season would probably they're saying likely begin on December 1st.
Yeah.
So you're already going to be 2 months behind the curve headed into next year. But at least they'd be playing catch up and they'd find a way to figure that all out. It's a
It's
lot.
not that difficult. Yeah, we
The good news is you're going to get a lot of basketball. You're not going to have a break. You're going to have a little break after the finals. You're going to have a tiny little break, and then you're going to be right back into basketball. And there's a chance
yeah.
we could have NBA finals and World Series at the same time. There could be, I mean, I don't know exactly the timing, but there's a chance it could be at least Major League Baseball playoffs. Well, there aren't any Major League Baseball playoffs because the Major League Baseball is probably not coming back. But we're definitely going to be competing with NFL football, college football,
Yeah.
whatever sports are out there. It's going to be interesting to see. That's an unusual blend of things. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to having just sports in general. I don't care what it is, to be honest with you. Anything's better than watching cornhole on TV or
What are you talking about?
fishing.
Nothing's better than
The 2012 Memorial Final Round. That's what CBS was showing today because they couldn't show the actual Memorial Tournament because they didn't have one. All right. So NBA is coming back. That's all we know. We know there's 22 teams. We know the format. If it happens, hopefully they're going to be testing everybody. Hopefully everything's going to go right. Hopefully there aren't going to be anybody catching it, and we aren't going to have a delay or one team get kicked out or, the problem you have is if one guy gets tested positive and in the middle of playing a game against this other team, you know what I mean? He just played against this other team and he tests positive tomorrow. Well, now both teams are compromised because he was out there playing, right? And so now you've got 2 teams, and one of them might have been a playoff team. Who knows? All I'm saying is it's going to be interesting if it happens. Hopefully
yeah.
it won't.
Agreed.
Yeah, hopefully it won't. All right. So last part of our show brought to you by Boss Kitty. Boss Kitty hand-dyed yarns. Go to bosskittyshop.com for your yarns, notions, and Boss Kitty merchandise, or pick up a bosskittyshop.com gift card. They're still having their lockdown savings special. Use the code Wash Your Hands at checkout to receive free domestic shipping on orders of $50 or more. That's bosskittyshop.com. Boss Kitty yarn. Yarn so boss you'll knit your pants. So every time.
It never gets old.
It's every time. It's one of the best. Yeah, I like that one. Anyway, so we're gonna talk about the NFL and news turmoil. What do we want to call it? I don't know. What happened? I think that everybody knows in the sports world. Drew Brees made a comment on a show on Yahoo Finance. The show is called On the Move, and I'm going to play a quick clip here of Drew Brees making this statement. Hold on just a second.
To work together to provide opportunities for one another to continue to move our country forward to a bigger and better place.
Drew, Dan Roberts here. Thanks for joining us. If we stick with this topic right now, everyone is looking back now at Kaepernick's protests from a few years ago, and obviously they were always about police brutality, and now it's coming back to the fore, and a lot of people expect that we will see players kneeling again if and when the NFL season starts. I'm curious how you think the NFL will and should respond to that, and of course, you're such a leader in the league. What is your responsibility as a leader in times like this for the rest of your teammates and players in the league?
Well, I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country.
All right, so that was Drew Brees saying that he will never um, tolerate someone disrespecting the flag or the country. Parker, what did you think about that statement when he made it? Did you hear it before the backlash started, or did you hear the backlash first?
I heard the backlash first, and it's so funny when these things happen. When somebody says something or somebody does something, it can be hard to find that source information. So I heard the backlash. I heard that, I was at work when it all happened, so I saw a thing that said Drew Brees made a comment, and I was like, I'll listen to it later. And then all of a sudden my phone's blowing up within an hour. ESPN updates letting me know that people were very upset with Drew Brees. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Of course, I try and go back and find that initial Drew Brees comment, and I cannot find it. I couldn't find it for a while. It took like a day or so with me off on digging because, I got a life. I got stuff I got to do. And eventually I found it, and I was like, oh, okay. But it really did seem taken. It was not a smart thing to say. Drew's a smart guy, and sometimes people say dumb stuff. That happens. And in this case, he said something dumb. Everything that he said after that was great, though. But just that one statement was not good. Not the right time to say that.
Yeah, I think the timing was unfortunate for what he said because he was answering a direct question about
Right.
kneeling during the national anthem, and he clarified, and I the backlash from that, if that was just the clip you heard and you understand, and everyone basically got on his case because it's not about the flag, it's about this and blah blah blah, and you're tone deaf, and I get it. I mean, I understand. It was a terrible timing, and it was the wrong. First of all, I'm torn. I'm torn. I'm torn a lot on these things because I agree. He probably shouldn't have said what he said when he said it, but it was in response to a question. We're gonna play the rest of the clip.
Yeah.
Here, let's play the rest of what Drew Brees said in after he said what he said. This is the remainder of what he said in response to the question about how the NFL should handle kneeling during the national anthem.
Let me just tell you what I see or what I feel when the national anthem is played and when I look at the flag of the United States. I envision my two grandfathers who fought for this country during World War II, one in the Army and one in the Marine Corps, both risking their lives to protect our country and to try to make our country and this world a better place. So every time I stand with my hand over my heart, looking at that flag and singing the national anthem, that's what I think about. And in many cases, it brings me to tears, thinking about all that has been sacrificed, not just those in the military, but for that matter, those throughout the civil rights movements of the 60s, and everyone and all that has been endured by so many people up until this point. And is everything right with our country right now? No, it's not. We still have a long way to go. But I think what you do by standing there and showing respect to the flag with your hand over your heart is it shows unity. It shows that we are all in this together. We can all do better, and that we are all part of the solution.
All right, when you hear the rest of that comment, how do you feel about the initial statement?
Well, I feel like it was qualified, and I feel like that's the problem with that statement in and of itself, is that he said this could have gone first and then last, or last and then first. He could have said all this stuff about his grandparents and his thoughts and his reasonings, and then gone, but I won't tolerate anybody standing for the flag. Like, it's still qualified. So in this case, he said, I won't do this, but this is why I think this. And I felt like that was the issue with it. If he would have said that this is why I do it, that's fine. He can say that. There's nothing wrong with that. But when he says that I don't want anybody else doing it because I do it this way, that's wrong. Like, it doesn't matter why you do or do not stand for the flag to me. And you shouldn't tell me that I should or shouldn't because of why you do. You do your thing, I'll do my thing. That's kind of the problem here, is that everyone is just shoving their nose into other people's business in ways that are at times inappropriate. And specifically in Drew Brees' case, he decided to make a statement that he thought is correct and that he lives by, which is that he's going to stand for the flag, that he's going to pay attention, and he's going to respect the anthem. But he said it in a way that says other people should too. And right now, telling people what to do, especially in regards to these hot topics, it's not a good idea.
So I will tell you, I'll tell you a couple things. Those of you who don't know me, I am a U.S. Army veteran. I firmly believe that as a veteran, I have an obligation to stand when that flag is displayed, when the national anthem is played. As a military member, you don't have a choice. That you have to stand. That's just it's part of the rules. But we are fighting as a military in general, as a national defense. We are fighting for your right to say I don't want to do that. If that's what you want to say, that's fine. I don't have a problem with you doing that. I still think it's disrespectful, but I don't have a problem with you doing that. I would tell you this: if you stood before George Floyd was murdered, if you were not standing, if you were standing for the national anthem, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, at an event or at whatever, and you're not now, there was social injustice then too. Why were you standing then? Why was it okay now? Why is this the trigger? This is the one that there's one too many. I feel like that's a little disrespectful to everyone else before who suffered the injustice. If you weren't doing it the whole time, why do it now? That's a little inconsistent to me too. I don't care either way. Do it or don't do it. But I won't. I won't take a knee during the national anthem. I know I still get goosebumps when the national anthem gets played at a sporting event that I'm attending when I'm live there. Um, but it's not something that I would penalize someone else if that was what they chose. I don't think that's the right answer. I don't think it's the right time to display your political view. It is a time for unity. That's why we all stand as a country. We're standing as one, standing up against the redcoats. That's what we're doing. Anyway,
Really.
but like I said, either way, it's fine. But so I get
The
it.
problem is that this type of patriotism is. Do you remember when we were at the Duck game a few years ago, or maybe it was last year, and the guy was, or maybe you weren't there. The guy was. I told you about. The guy was telling other people to take off their hats. You remember I told you about this? We were standing there in our seats. We have season tickets. And in the row in front of us, there's this guy. I'm sure he was a little inebriated. Thought I saw him pounding a few. But the anthem started. Everyone's standing. I'm standing. And this dude, about four people to his left, has his hat on. And he reaches over and smacks his hat off his head and says, "Show some respect." Those two things are linked. Drew Brees' statement and this guy's attitude are similar. The only difference is one's a little more extreme. But we're losing sight of where things stop. We're losing gray areas. All this stuff about, and this kind of digs into more what we're going to talk about, but all this stuff about, if you're not with me, you're against me. Like, people are losing gray areas. It's not okay. Oh, you have your hat on, you're completely disrespecting it. Like, yeah, you're standing, yeah, you're listening, yeah, you're at attention. Oh, but the hat's on? Nah, you're a bad person. Like, you need to knock that off. And that's what we're talking about. We're losing that ability to understand, really.
Well, and I think this boils down to the whole core of what we're talking about. We, as a country, are divided along more than just race lines. We're divided all the time. It is literally you versus me,
Yeah,
us
Burger
versus
King,
them.
McDonald's.
Right. We've been doing this forever, and you're a divided country, and some of them are trivial, like that, like you mentioned, or Pepsi versus Coke, or
Yeah.
whatever. And I get it, but we've been divided politically into two parties. That's you're either this or you're that, and nobody wants to blend in the middle. No one wants to go meet and compromise. And our country, to be honest, was founded on compromise. That was the whole point. People were good negotiators. They were good at compromising. I'll give you this, you give me that. We both get a little something we want, and we move forward. And that's how things should always be. Because if the two sides just don't agree, then nothing gets done. We're in basically where we are now, which is gridlock, and nothing happens. Our country's been divided like that, and the racial issue has always been there because it's always been that way, and it needs to go away. But how do you get it to go away? And education is my answer. Is the only thing I can come up with. You can't change the system until you have better educated people making informed decisions about things. Because what you get right now is knee jerk reaction. I don't want that because that doesn't help me. If it's not going to help me, why would
Right.
I vote for that? And that's what you're getting. And I think we as a society need to move beyond that. I think we need to focus on what's best for most people, what's best for all of, but not to the extent that we're hurting some other group of people. You know what I mean? We need to be inclusive. We need to take everyone's needs into consideration. But again, you can't please everyone. It doesn't matter what you do. Some of these people, you can't please them. It doesn't matter what you do in life. You're just not going to be able to please them or change their opinion or change their mind. Some people are just that way. Um, and you've seen that. We used to live in the South, and you see,
Yeah.
not that I'm blaming anybody, but it is very prevalent in the South. That attitude of racism, of discrimination, of you see it, you hear it. Literally heard in an interview on television when we were living there. There was a Senate seat open. There was a black candidate and a white candidate, and I literally heard people on TV being interviewed saying, "I won't vote for him because he's black." And I thought to myself, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
He may be the most qualified person ever to hold that position, but I'm not going to vote for him because he's black. That is just dumb. That to me is just at its finest right there. Anyway, so
I
Charles
think you're
Barkley.
right that education is really.
Say again.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I think you're right that education is really important. I think it's the only way to do it.
I think we have to be better informed, and a lot of that is traveling in someone else's shoes, being experienced it. You would have a different opinion of how it works. You know what I mean? Of how the society works. If you've never
Yeah.
faced discrimination of any kind, then
Yep.
you don't have a clue. Um, Charles Barkley and, and
Yep.
and Shaquille O'Neal were talking about it, and Charles had this to say about the Drew Brees statement and the backlash.
Hey, Drew Brees was wrong in his initial statement, but the level of vitriol, anger, and things like that, I thought was overkill. Drew Brees, whatever he said, I thought he talked about. Hey, the flag means different things to different people. But I thought the way he was portrayed on television and radio today was not fair at all. Drew Brees has done some amazing things in New Orleans and his life. I'm not even talking about football. He made a mistake in a statement. But this level of we've got to kill everybody who says something we don't agree with, I'm never going to go with the mob.
So Charles, kind of agreeing with the sentiment that I feel, which is that Drew Brees probably got fried over this a little more than he should have, and a lot of that, the first part of that comment was taken and used against him, kind of out of the context of what he was saying, but
Right.
it was still a tone deaf comment. It was still wrong to say it when he said it.
Bad
How-
timing.
yeah. So I like Charles. Charles, Charles, one of those.
Sometimes I like Charles.
I love Charles. I love listening to Charles. Charles is one of those guys that says what he feels. He is not going to hold anything back, and I like that because you know where you stand with Charles. Shaq's the same way, except can't understand Shaq. He talks like this. So I feel like that was an interesting. If you get a chance to play that, listen to Shaq and Charles talk about it. But it I think the backlash was too much. I think it was too much, and it forced him to make an apology twice,
Yeah.
and then get into a feud with the president.
Good.
I well, I mean, it shouldn't have gone that far. That's the whole point. Is it shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have gotten to that point. And I know he felt bad, and that's why he apologized. And I, if that's what you feel like you have to do, then that's what you have to do. I feel like he had a great. They talk about the discussion he had with his teammates, and they talk about agreeing to move forward, and he's people kind of see that as waffling or changing his stance. I don't think that's true. That's not his original statement. Was never the intent was I don't agree with you. It was just that I don't agree with this particular moment in time. You making that statement.
Yeah. And what he apologized for wasn't that he said that.
Right.
It was that he said it now, and it was that how he said it,
Right.
and it was that it overshadowed a much bigger thing happening. That's what he apologized for.
Right.
He still has never apologized for saying that he thinks
no.
people shouldn't disrespect the flag. He still believes that. That's not gone. That's still there. But he does understand that there's a time and a place, and there's more he could do to help the people who are in his immediate environment.
Right. And being in the profession that he's in, it definitely, you definitely need to be making that, be sensitive to the timing of the whole thing. I just
Yeah.
yeah. So that being said, that led to all kinds of other things. But this whole situation has led to NFL players. They made a video. A certain select group of black NFL players made a video that basically titled "What if I was George Floyd." I want to play a little clip of it. Um, not it's not the whole clip, but it's near the end where they're talking about what they would like from the NFL. Here it is.
So, on behalf of the National Football League,
this is what we, the players,
would like to hear you state.
we, the National Football League,
condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people.
we, the National Football League,
admit wrong and silencing our players from peacefully protesting.
we, the National Football League,
Believe Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
So, when you saw that for the first time, how did you feel about that video?
I felt like it was good. I felt like it was star. So I always believe that change is going to be affected by the loudest voices. All right. Colin Kaepernick's a weird example because his voice wasn't that loud. He was in a big position, but it wouldn't be the same as if Tom Brady said it or as if Drew Brees said it. You know what I mean? That sort of thing, like much, much louder voices than his. But in this video, you have Patrick Mahomes, probably one of the loudest voices in the NFL, talking. DeAndre Hopkins, the best receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, talking. You have countless other people in here who are all large voices, and they're very clear about what they want. A lot of times people put out these videos or these ideas, and it's like, I kind of would like this or I kind of would like that. But this time they're like, no, this is what you need to do. You need to take a stance. This is what we've been asking of our president for 4 years, is to say white supremacists are bad. Say they're bad. No, I'm not going to do that. Say they're bad. No, I'm not going to do that. They're saying to the NFL, you need to say these things. Put it out there. Make it real. And they called them out for it. And I appreciate it. It's a good way to do it. Don't come to me with, just the problem. Come to me with the solution. Their solution is making you say it. Make you take a stance. That way you can't walk away from it.
Yeah, I thought it was a really powerful statement, and I think it was well done. I think it's basically you're telling your employer, for lack of a better term, this is how we feel and this is what we think, and you haven't really addressed this before the way you should have addressed it, and we want you to start doing it the right way. I think they're just fed up, kind of like the rest of us. They're fed up with the whole situation, and that we need to find a way forward that's better, and they're trying to force something to start, and so basically that I feel like they've done that. They've pushed the button, obviously, because now we have Roger Goodell and the NFL, and I'm going to play a little portion of this clip that he released, that the NFL released with Roger Goodell making this statement.
We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter.
So he basically said exactly what they wanted him to say. And
yeah, for the first paragraph, yeah.
And so the question is, do we believe Roger Goodell and the NFL are capable of the kind of change that I think the players are asking for?
No, I don't believe that they're capable of it as long as the owner of the Washington Redskins still is allowed to own the Washington Redskins. As long as Jerry Jones is allowed to, every 5 years pop up with a racist comment and then just disappear away. As long as things like that are allowed to happen, no, they'll never be capable of it because money will drive their league more than true ambition will. I do believe that Roger Goodell is behind it. I believe that Roger Goodell will be a forefront, a leader on the forefront of this whole thing. I also could see Roger Goodell getting fired here soon by a bunch of rich white owners who don't really want him being that voice and don't really approve of him making these type of statements and stands. That being said, I don't think he would go and do this without having consulted some important people, but I could see it being an issue. But I don't think the NFL is capable of it. I think they'll try, and I think trying is important, but I don't think it's going to be the radical change that anybody wants it to be. I don't think any of this is going to be the radical change. This education thing that you were talking about earlier, it's important, it's necessary, but when you go from one adult to another and you say, all right, I need you to stop being racist, and they say, how? And you say, okay, well, learn the history. It's like, good, I know the history, and I'm still kind of racist. Like, all right, well, stop doing it. Like, how? It's an idea. The way you do it is through educating the youth, and in 30 years, 40 years, it starts to weed out. So all this stuff right now, all this big bang stuff that's happening with protests and with the players calling this stuff out, the league's not going to change now. It's going to change in 30 years. So that's just it's going to take some time.
Yeah, and hopefully it will. Hopefully it's going to be, we've been talking about as a country, we've been talking about it as a nation for quite some time. I mean, we've been talking even before the civil rights movement. But even if you just want to go back to the 60s, that's 60 years that you're talking about change. You're talking about how to make things better, how to make things equal, how to make things more fair and balanced. Just how do you do that? And it's going to start with educating the young people so that a new generation grows in and doesn't feel that. The problem is that they're still going to get raised at home by parents that are racist. And
that's why it's effective. That's why you teach them a little bit so that way their views slightly differ from their parents, and then the next generation gets taught a little different. So their views are slightly different from their parents, more that direction. And then in 2-3 generations, you're dealing with kids who are, we'll say, 25% racist, as opposed to their great grandparents who were 100% racist.
Well, I'm hoping that it doesn't take that long to get there.
Yeah,
it would be nice if it
it'd be
happened
nice
a
if
little
people
quicker.
could just stop. Yeah. Just stop being dicks to people.
You don't have to be mean to someone. I mean, there's no reason for it. And if you don't even know them, there's really no reason. You know what I mean? Now, if you know them personally and they truly are, an awful person, hey, more power to you. But I don't think I've never really met that many people in my life where I said that's an awful person. It just doesn't happen very often. You know what I mean? So the odds of me
I've met 2 or 3, and I told. Sorry, go ahead.
The odds of me hating someone, you know what I mean, physically hate, are pretty slim. I'm pretty easy to get along with, and most of the time I would just go not be around you. I'm not going to go out on a limb, and I'm not going to go out and tell somebody, oh, I hate that guy. That's just not me. I would just say, meh, I would prefer not to associate with them, or I'm not going to hang out with them. But I'm not going to just go out of my way to do that because, that's making things worse. So I feel like there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a way to affect the change that we want to affect without inspiring more anger or hatred, because that's not the answer. Is not to fight it with more hate and more anger, and that's just not going to help either. So what do you think that it means that he didn't mention Colin Kaepernick by name in that statement?
Well, he didn't really mention anything by name, but I think it means that the NFL is still trying to do. The NFL has 2 routes to go with this Kaepernick thing, which is, at this point, now that you've kind of, as Roger Goodell, let's just assume that he speaks for the NFL. At this point, you've made a declaration saying you support the Black Lives Matter movement. You support African American athletes and you support their causes. All right. 3 years ago, you did not say that. When Colin Kaepernick was kneeling, you did not lend your support to him. All right. So now you're at this moment where you can go that route and start supporting him, but you're going to alienate that particular group of fans, and you know who you are. That particular group of fans who's going to be like, oh, you're flip-flopping. You didn't care about him then. You care about him now. It's because of pressure and blah, 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 and you're a fake, and it's going to be the whole thing. Or you can continue on your path and just say, nah, we still don't like that. We still didn't like Colin Kaepernick and the way he did this, which, I mean, compared to burning down shops in Portland is nice.
Right.
You can go the other route and just be like, nah, we're just, we're not going to acknowledge that. We're not going to let that become part of this movement. We're going to let this movement be separate from that one and try and, do that. But I think it's going to meet at some point. They're going to have to at some point acknowledge this. I think that I said this the other day while we were talking probably for the show. I think they should hire Colin Kaepernick as the, NFL's, I don't know how to say it. Not manager, like someone in charge of helping promote diversity, inclusiveness, and is responsible for the problems that occur within the NFL and their players. Basically, he takes over that role in affecting change in the NFL. I think that's what they should bring him on to do. If no one's going to hire him as a quarterback, even though I still think he could have quarterbacked your Dolphins better than Tua is going to.
Well, and that may still be an option. I mean, I feel like that he's probably going to get an opportunity. I think that someone's going to pull him into camp and I we're only 3 years removed from him playing quarterback. He's not old by any stretch. I think he could definitely still play quarterback. I feel like that somebody out there could use him and he could help. My Dolphins couldn't do any worse than they do now. So I'm willing to accept that if that's if that's the way they go. I'm willing to do anything that'll make them better. I don't care. So I feel like he he's a trailblazer. He's a trendsetter now, and he started a movement. Except it took 3 years for people to realize what he was doing. I feel like there were plenty of opportunities along the way for other people to jump in, and they didn't right away. There were some that did, but you know what I mean? As a group, as the NFL as a whole, didn't support him at all, and that was not okay. Right. But we'll see how it all turns out. I don't know where we go from here, basically, but there'll be more news. So
it reminds me of when a city is trying to build a new interstate or a new highway or something like that. They're going to piss off hundreds of people who own homes along those routes and things like that. But once it's done, the millions of people in a city are going to go, wow, this is really nice.
Yeah,
this is really sweet. I'm glad you did that. But before, at the moment, when you looked at it in time, when people were trying to pass the vote to get it done, things like that, people were upset and angry and throwing fits. And I just feel like Colin Kaepernick he's the martyr for that cause. He's the guy who got chewed out, kicked out of the league. He got disrespected pretty heavily, and no one wanted to take him seriously. And now, it took, unfortunately, somebody else getting hurt, multiple people getting hurt over the past however many years. But now it's the change is looking like it's coming, and he's the conductor of that train. He's moving it.
So that's basically all we have to talk about today, and it's plenty. But let's get back to our trivia question, because I told you we'd have the answer to the trivia question at the end of the show. Trivia question brought to you by Stave & Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. The question was, let me restate it, that the NBA hands out an MVP award every year since 1955, 1956 to the most valuable player. Last year's winner was Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks. What's the name of the MVP trophy handed out by the NBA? You got a guess?
No, I do not. Isn't one of them the Bill Russell? There's a Bill Russell trophy in the NBA, right?
This one is not.
Oh, that's for the Finals MVP.
So this one is not that. So this one has a name.
That's for the Finals MVP. I don't know.
I had never heard. It is named after a man, and I had never heard this person's name before. So this is the Maurice Podoloff Trophy.
Maurice Podoloff.
Podoloff. So Maurice Podoloff was the first NBA president. He was the president of the Basketball Association of America from 46 to 49, and then in 1949, when the NBA formed, he was the first president. When they became a commissioner eventually, but he was the president of the National Basketball Association when it first formed, and his name is on that trophy. I had never heard of him before until this week, and didn't know that it even had a name. Maurice Podoloff. Yeah.
He's born in Russia, by the way. I'm looking it up now.
Yeah. So that's there's your interesting trivia tidbit, trivia question brought to you by Stave & Stone Wine Estates. So that's going to do it for our show today. You got anything you want to say on our way out?
People just be good to each other.
That would be nice. And wash your hands still.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. So we're on YouTube Live every weekend. You can tweet us at Lamm Sports on Twitter. You can email us, lambsports@gmail.com. We're on Facebook. Just search the Best Lamm Sports Show, and you'll find our page. We want to thank The Range, Boss Kitty, Stave & Stone Wine Estates. Thanks for listening, and have a great rest of your weekend.